So yeah, I thought I'd do a Call of Duty tier list just for the fun of it. Starting up with Call of Duty 1 all the way back in 2003. Fun fact, I never actually played this game when it first came out. I played it first when it was bundled with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the special edition for Modern Warfare 2, which cost I think $80 at the time. Yeah, Call of Duty 1. It came bundled with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the special edition came bundled with a free download code for Call of Duty 1. It's a good game. It holds up okay, I guess, but the my biggest complaint would be the fact that the characters, the enemies are very stupid. There's not much. They're not very smart. It feels like they're trying to. It feels like, I mean, this is the first game. Of course, something can be forgiven. It feels like Infinity Ward couldn't decide whether they wanted to make a realistic military shooter for the time, or if they just wanted to make a game where you just shoot hordes of enemies. One thing I liked was I like the campy voice acting. I like the aesthetics they put into like that level where you're playing as the Russians. And for a T-rated game, there was a lot of disturbing content. Like there was one level where you're playing as the Russians, and they give one of your teammates a gun, the other one they give them ammo, and whoever dies gets the other one's gun or ammo. That was interesting. I like how they incorporated that into a T-rated game without making it feel too over the top and gory, and meant to maintain a T rating. Also, I liked how there was a lot of things you could like, not really a lot, but there were some things you could like secrets you could uncover with the by taking the time to explore the areas. There weren't that many secrets you could uncover. One that comes to mind is when you're in a German castle and you twist the head of an eagle statue. It reminds me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where you have this rotating fireplace, which reveals a secret room in a castle. That was kind of fun. Overall, I thought it was a good campaign, but I never played the multiplayer because it came out back in 2003, and like I said, I didn't play it until 2009. So I really can't comment on the multiplayer. But for the first game, it's still pretty solid. My biggest complaint is with the enemy AI and the way they walk. Your teammates or the enemies, they walk like they have sticks shoved up their butts. It's really quite comical. But it's the first game; it can be forgiven. Next up is the expansion, Call of Duty United Defense. Very good expansion. I would argue it's even better than the first game. Call of Duty United Defense had you playing on the side of the Canadians, I believe, as well as the British, or I don't even remember, but I remember having a lot more better pace in the first game. The first game was more in your face action. The second game had better pacing and had more somber moments. A very good expansion. It's a shame that most people don't even remember this game because it's just an expansion, but it feels more like a complete game to me than the actual first game. Call of Duty United Defense was a very good game, or expansion, whatever you want to call it. Next up is Call of Duty 2, which is, in my opinion, it goes in A tier. Call of Duty 2 had probably the best of the original 3 games, or 4 if you count United Defense. Had the best campaign out of all the OG Call of Duties. It was very well made. I like the fact that it had a much darker tone, and I think they really pushed the T rating with that one. I think it might have been rated M. No, it was rated T. Yeah, that game was, I think, the first Call of Duty to come out on Xbox 360. The 360 version, for its time back in 2005, looked amazing. Had a very, there's a lot of interesting ways you can tackle missions, and my favorite mission is the one where you're trying to take down a Nazi bunker on a hill. You have to cut down the Nazi flag to raise the American flag. That was a fun mission. Very dark, very well made. This is one of the games I really wish they would make a remake of, kind of like what Capcom did with Resident Evil 2. So yeah, Call of Duty 2, in my opinion, is deserving a remake for the campaign. It has a really good story. I think it was probably the longest of the campaign we've gotten any Call of Duty yet. I think it was 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours. It was really long. Next up, we have Call of Duty 3, which is absolutely terrible. It goes in the F tier. I don't even think they were trying with this game. This is Treyarch's first attempt at making Call of Duty, and it was not a good first impression. It did not leave a good first impression. It was, from what I remember, it was originally going to be a Wii exclusive, and then it got ported and then they decided to simultaneously develop it for PlayStation 3 and Xbox. and I don't remember much about it. All I remember was the game looked like garbage, even for 2006 standards. Even on the PS3, hell, even the Wii version looked inferior to other Wii shooters at the time. The Wii launch title Red Steel had better graphics, in my opinion. Very, very disappointing. I don't even think anyone even played the multiplayer of this game. Very forgettable. Very bad. Did not leave a good first impression. And next up, we have Call of Duty 4, which goes, of course, in the God tier because this game revolutionized the FPS genre as a whole. It came out back in 2007, back in the middle, back when we were still at war with, in real life, with some countries in the Middle East, and this game very much encapsulated that feeling of the time. And even after years now, even after 13 and a half years, it still ages incredibly well. Same with Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, developed by Raven. The campaign was so well made. It was incredible. It had incredibly attention to detail. The characters were fun and likable. Especially Captain Price, I like his no bullshit attitude. The way they introduced the newer version of Captain Price for this new timeline, not the original one from the OG timeline. My only one complaint is with the remastered version. They introduced microtransactions, but I like what they did with the salvage. So if you get a duplicate item of something you already got, it's converted to salvage, and you can use that salvage to buy other items, which you can use to form complete sets to buy bigger items, more prominent items. It was a good idea. It's a shame that they got rid of the salvage because I guess they figured they can make more money by just bilking you for every time you get a duplicate item, not giving you anything for your duplicates. But the multiplayer was revolutionary. I do miss the fact that I do kind of feel bad that they tried to shove in the 2-weapon limit from Halo because that was popular at the time. And to this day, most Call of Duties do have a 2-weapon limit, except when you play online, you can have a perk be your RPG, and I guess it's technically 3 weapons, but still, the first Call of Duty let you hold 3 guns at once. This game will let you hold 2. If they ever do remake this game again, or make a new, or for the next year's Call of Duty, which is rumored to be Modern Warfare 2 in the reboot franchise, I really hope that they let you carry more than 2 guns at once, because I really miss those old days of first-person shooters when you can carry as many weapons as you want. But it is trying to be grounded. So at the same time, I guess you have to find the right balance between being grounded in reality and also being a fun shooter. There's always a fine line, a fine balance between that. Next up is Call of Duty World at War, which goes under the S tier because this game was incredibly dark for its time. I made a video review for this game. This was the only game, to my knowledge, that featured casual dismemberment. So if you shoot someone in their limbs with a shotgun or blow them up with a grenade, you can see their arms and legs being blown off, and you can see dismemberment. That was a really fun thing to introduce, which they're probably not going to do again because I guess this game came out all the way back in 2008. Can you imagine if I guess they figured it would be incredibly difficult to program. I don't know why they didn't do it, but they just decided to get rid of that feature. I missed it. It really added to the fact, made you feel like you were part of a war. The way everything was just there was so much gore and violence. And it wasn't just the gore and violence. It was you play as 2 people: the U.S. Marines fighting the Japanese and the Russians fighting the Nazis. When you're playing as the U.S., your equipment's much better, so it feels like. So you have better access to better equipment. You have regular grenades and you have smoke grenades as your secondary, or you can choose to switch to flash grenades during multiplayer. And when you're playing as the Russians, since their equipment isn't as good as the Americans, you have these like really rugged grenades, and you have, instead of flashbangs or smoke grenades, you have Molotov cocktails. It really did a good job of making you feel like you're playing as 2 different people. Instead of just the same generic grunt on both the eastern and the western fronts. So yeah, Call of Duty World at War, good times. I also liked in World at War all the attention to detail. Like if you take your time to go to play this game at a slower pace, you can play at whatever pace you want. You can play at a fast pace, or you can play at a slower pace. If you play at a fast pace, you can have a lot of fun. But if you play it at a slower pace, you can pay attention. You can realize that it really highlights the horrors of war aspects. You can see your teammates are killing unarmed Nazis in cold blood when you're playing as the Russians. You can see Nazis being hanged from the top of electric wires, from the top of electric poles. During the fall of Berlin mission, you can see when you're playing as the Americans against the Japanese, you can see all the Japanese are how they move. They move really quickly. They put a lot of effort onto attention to detail, which I don't think many Call of Duty games now have much attention to detail in the campaigns. Now it's all focused on battle royale. My one last thing I could say about this game: the multiplayer was really fun. The MP40 was overpowered back then, but you could just ignore it. I mean, it wasn't that annoying. And the zombie mode, in order to play in order to came with one zombie map, which you had to unlock by playing the campaign to completion. Which, I mean, back then, the first zombie map that ever came out, Noctu on Turton, Night of the Dead, was very bare bones, didn't have much content, but it was still something, and it helped bring zombies to life. So there's that. Very good campaign, solid story, did a great job of highlighting the horrors of war aspects while still being a fun game. So for that, it goes on the S tier. Next up, we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which goes under the B tier. The campaign for this game took a nosedive in quality, in my opinion, from the original Modern Warfare. It tried to be more of an action movie than it tried to be a serious adventure, like a serious. It tried to be more of an action movie than a serious like war game, which is fine, I guess, if that's what you're going for. The one thing I like the most about Modern Warfare 2 is the Spec Ops missions. It came with 23 Spec Ops missions at launch, and I played them for hours on end with my brother and with my friends online. I had a really good time with that. So yeah, Spec Ops was a good time. Multiplayer was fun, but the amount of hackers and the one-man army noob tubes, which basically was a perk that gave you infinite ammo, was just ridiculous. So yeah, the campaign wasn't as good. Multiplayer wasn't as good. I love Spec Ops mode, and for that, it goes in the B tier. Next up, we have Call of Duty Black Ops, which goes under the S tier as well. I didn't like the campaign this as much as it did for World at War. It didn't really do a good job of highlighting the horrors of war aspects, except for one level where you're playing as a Russian, and you could see your teammates being like gassed to death with this poison gas. You can see that their faces are melting. It would have been nice if there was more of, if the campaign felt more realistic. This one felt more like a sci-fi, kind of like a sci-fi FPS game. Like, you're supposed to believe this Russian guy who has no medical experience managed to perform brain surgery on you and brainwash you or hypnotize you into performing assassination missions on these people to get revenge for him. It just felt way too over the top and sci-fi-ish. I mean, I guess I like the twist at the end where it turns out that your teammate was dead the whole time. Kind of feels like The Sixth Sense, from my favorite movie. You just thought he was alive, but it was it just felt more like a sci-fi game than it did a war game, if that makes sense. I was originally gonna put this under the A tier, but the DLC made this game incredibly, and it added so much replay out of the game. Not just the zombie maps, but even the standard multiplayer maps. The DLC maps were so much fun. You had Kowloon, which is when you're in China and you get to use like the ramps, not the ramps, the wires, like jump across rooftops. That was fun. I like how all the maps felt like they had their own unique gimmick. That was fun. So I would just originally put this under the A tier, but because of the DLC, I'm putting it under S tier. Great game. Next up, we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which also, in my opinion, goes under the S tier, either A or S tier. I can't relate to. Which Modern Warfare 3, in my opinion, had the best multiplayer and Spec Ops of the original Modern Warfare trilogy. The campaign was more of a return to form, a lot more dark than Modern Warfare 2's Hollywood blockbuster action campaign. Soap dies, Yuri dies, pretty much most of the main characters get killed off. And the multiplayer was very well balanced. They got rid of the one-man army noob tubes. They got rid of shotguns as a secondary weapon for the multiplayer. What I liked the most about this game was definitely the Spec Ops. It had a lot of content, and there was the DLC, which I believe I bought one of the DLC packs. I played Spec Ops mode for hours, days on end. Spec Ops mode for Modern Warfare 3. Very fun game. Black Ops 3, or sorry, Spec Ops, Modern Warfare 3 Spec Ops was very fun on PS3. It's a shame. When this game first came out, I got it for PC, and nobody was playing Spec Ops on PC, so I had to buy it for both PC and PS3. But other than the fact that the PC version didn't have any people playing it, the the PS3 version was incredibly well balanced. The campaign was very replayable, had a lot of dark and somber moments, as well as some action moments, but it didn't feel like the action moments were the main priority. It felt like the story was the main priority, which I appreciate. Next up, we have Call of Duty. What came after Modern Warfare 3 was Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2 goes under the A tier. I like the campaign with its multiple endings and the way you can unlock them. The one thing I didn't like was the fact that this game only had one zombie map at launch. Black Ops 1 had two zombie maps at launch. Plus, it had 4 new maps you can unlock, plus the old maps from World at War, which you can play with the new guns from Call of Duty Black Ops. Black Ops 2 didn't have any of that. So you had one zombie map at launch, plus 5 additional maps, and the user interface was extremely confusing. Like, I remember back when it first came out, how hard it was to even join a match because of how confusing the UI was. The campaign was better. The multiplayer's pick 10 system was hit or miss for some people. I enjoyed it personally, but I know some people didn't enjoy it that much. It would have been nice if and one thing that I like was the fact that they introduced point streaks as opposed to kill streaks. So you get the more points you get, the more close you are to getting your streaks, whatever that may be. So you don't have to kill anyone to get points. You can get points by performing certain actions, which was interesting because it's easier to kill someone with an AC-130 than it is to get a sniper to snipe them from 100 yards away. So obviously you're going to get lesser points from than killing them with an AC-130 or an explosive. So I like that. That was an interesting feature, an interesting new mechanic. Next up, we have Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, which is going under the either D or F. I can't. I'm going to put under the F tier. Sorry. Next up, we have Call of Duty Ghosts, which everyone hated, dumpster fire. Absolutely, the campaign was incredibly rushed. Incredibly rushed. It was incredibly linear. There was no creative freedom. It felt like barely any at all. I remember when this game first came out, the trailer showed you could like knock down a tree in multiplayer mode. Turned out like there was just one tree you can knock down, and that was it. So like that felt like pretty much false advertisement, almost false advertising. Not very many people played multiplayer. The alien survival mode was a complete joke. It didn't have much replay value. Only one map at launch. No one liked the campaign. Ghost is a dumpster fire. Next up, we have Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, which goes under the F tier because it was garbage. It wasn't as bad as Ghost, but still improving on garbage doesn't make it better. It doesn't necessarily make it good. Like Captain Price says, it's not hard to improve on garbage. Yeah, Advanced Warfare, incredibly generic campaign, the incredibly linear, incredibly scripted, not much room for creative freedom. Like there's this mission where you can have these gloves, you can like magnetize yourself to walls and stuff, but it lasted for like 30 seconds and that's about it. There's no real way you can like tackle a mission other than the way it wants you to perform it. There's no room you have to do the way it wants you to complete it. Very limited room for creative freedom. Very underwhelming game. It goes under F tier. The campaign was incredibly predictable. The story was predictable. And the only memorable thing that even came from this game was the press F to not die meme. Press F to pay respect. Press F to pay respect. So we got that. Next up, we have Call of Duty. What came after that was Call of Duty Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3 goes with the C tier because, well, at first I was going to put it under the D tier, but then the DLC made it slightly better over time. It's a shame though that the game ended up being more DLC than actual game. Like 25% of the game comes from the base game. Less than like 20% of the game comes from the base game, and like 80% of the game's content comes from DLC, much of which you have to unlock with RNG loot boxes. And then of course we have, which everyone hated. I mean, I like some of them. Zombie, I like the Zombie Chronicles map. So the update they made the game update the visuals for the older maps. I like Der Eisendrache. That was a fun map. And the I liked a couple of the multiplayer maps, but the campaign was just had nothing to do with the previous Black Ops games, and it wasn't even a good standalone campaign. It made no sense and was poorly designed. Like you can find ammo crates and every 5 steps you go. So I almost never need to reload my gun because there was ammo crates and guns are so plentiful. Like there was never a time in the campaign where you felt like you had to conserve your ammo. Like you're like, oh my god, do I have to conserve my ammo? Do I have to wait? Do I have to, or do I use it all now and hope that there's another gun later on? No, there's guns and ammo crates every 5 steps you go. You don't. There's no. The tension is gone. There's almost no tension in the campaign. So yeah, originally I was gonna put this under the D tier, but because the DLC is better, I'm putting it under the C. Made it better. I'm putting it under the C tier. Next up, we have Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which goes under D tier. I like the zombie mode, but that's about it. The campaign made no sense. It was stupid. The only reason anyone bought this game was because it was bundled with Modern Warfare Remastered. No one liked it. D tier. Next up, we have Call of Duty Black Ops 4, which is going under the D tier as well, because the game didn't even have a campaign that came out. It had one zombie map, and I think like 10 or maybe 8 to 10 multiplayer maps, and the big focus was on Battle Royale. So they put all the effort into that, and none of the effort into anything else. There was one zombie map at launch, and that's it. And there was so much DLC and stuff you had to unlock, which is ridiculous. Next up is Modern Warfare, which goes under the B tier. I liked the campaign. I thought it was interesting how they tried to highlight the horrors of war aspects. I like the I thought it was incredibly. It was really well made. The graph. They put a lot of effort under the attention to detail with the environments. It had a lot. It had. It was very. It had a lot of. It was. I think the biggest Call of Duty game to date. It had a 150 gigabyte installation before you could even play it. Graphically, it looked amazing. I think the story was kind of hit or miss. It did highlight the horrors of war aspects, but it felt like it also couldn't find the right balance between being a good war game and being a good action game. I mean, the first half was really fun, but the second half was just balls to the walls action and complete disregard for the laws of physics. It was just so ridiculously over the top. Of the second half, but the first half was good. Multiplayer was good. And I like Spec Ops mode, but Spec Ops Survival was only available on PlayStation 4 for 1 year at its launch. So most people didn't get a chance to play it, the full game, which was disappointing. And last but not least, we have Black Ops Cold War, which goes under the C tier because I wrote a review for this game. While it was interesting, it had some good ideas. I like the improved mechanics where you can like double tap the square button on the PS4 controller to auto detonate C4 as opposed to having to switch your gun with a detonator. And the improvements made to zombies mode, such as giving the zombies health bars and letting you auto evacuate the match without having to die, was interesting. But there was only one zombie map at launch. The campaign was like barely 3 to 4 hours long, and the multiplayer mode clearly took a backseat to Battle Royale. So that's all my Call of Duty games. Feel free to share below what you think about your favorite Call of Duty games in the comments below.